Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Happy Friday, not just any Friday, in fact, but Black Friday, which means absolutely nothing to me. But if you are out and about, I hope that you are shopping safely and soundly and enjoying your time and hitting hella licks. Funny story, my son a while ago saw an ad for like Black Friday or whatever sales or something. And he came to me like, Mom, we have our own Friday? I was cracking up. And low key in my mind, I'm like, actually, since you know we some of the biggest consumers out here, it probably is, especially for us. But no, I thought that was really funny. And I also think it's quite interesting that companies and stores and stuff start Black Friday almost 2 and 3 weeks out ahead now. It's just like Black Friday ain't even Black Friday no more. It's like Black Month, soon as Halloween is over, they amp up the propaganda to get you to start shopping. But it's just really a testament to how bad it's needed in the economy to some degree, that people just aren't shopping like they used to, before. People, I want to believe, are just finding value in other things now, or just plainly, unfortunately, just don't have the money and the resources to expend in the way that they used to before. So whatever it may be for you, for me, for anyone else, I hope that you have a happy Friday nonetheless. All right. So, Ace of Swords, bam, bam, bam. Divine clarity, truth, vision, clear. What can you say about the Ace of Swords? It's like the most supreme revelation or truth that one could have or receive, whether it be exposed from the inside out, whether it be projected from the outside in. It could be clarity about your circumstances. It could be clarity about something internally that once caused some bit of confusion or uncertainty, clarity about your own identity in the sense where you have a more grounded foundation to stand upon, in truth regarding yourself, and that definitely gains or affords more confidence, and stability and security. But let's see. I don't know. I feel like I should take that out. I feel like when we start with cards such as this, with the Ace of Swords or a major arcana that really jumps out to me, I'm just going to go ahead and take it out. All right, so let's see what else we got here. Ace of Swords on the board. And it's also into, what can I say, intuition? Yeah, I would say that. It could also, I'm feeling something more supreme of an energy than just clarity and truth. It's like clairvoyance. Yeah, that's what it's giving me right here. So seeing beyond what may even be visible, perhaps. All right, so now we got the, interesting. Let's just do a little pyramid since we started, right? So we got the Five of Cups and the King of Cups. Some disappointment here. Now, is this the same person experiencing this disappointment, depression, regret, remorse, sorrow? Is this one and the same person? Ooh, Yes, on account of judgment. So someone is unhappy about either decisions that they have made or decisions that, final judgments that have been called. But the thing is, it's like, okay, I'm seeing how they've been exposed with the Ace of Swords. This is on account of exposure, because it doesn't make any sense. Oh, and what's under the deck but the sun? Exposure. Yep. This is on account of, and the truth that cannot be denied. It's like this level of exposure. That's why I was saying it feels like something more supreme, because number one, someone internally perhaps is seeing the truth of themselves and who they've been by way of the judgment of the spirit and how it's being relayed to them in real time, like real life events showing them, ultimately the error of their ways is what I feel. Like somebody's been extremely manipulative here in the way of love with the King of Cups, emotional expression, perhaps manipulating others' emotions, but also using their emotional essence to manipulate. With the King of Cups, this is someone that can definitely be projective, especially with the Ace of Swords. This is someone that can project emotions upon others. We're talking mystically here, but also in a practical way, just manipulatively project a certain emotion onto others where it almost victimizes the target. Definitely, I would say destabilizes it. If we don't like victimized, because it could also be, the matter of the own person's making and doing to be in connection with such a source or character as to why they were vulnerable in the first place. There's partially that, but it's also still, when we're talking about the King of Cups in this array here, in this spread of cards, he would have the burden. If these were two different people, which it's already been said that it's really not, but I'll get into how it could be also in a minute. If he would have the burden of responsibility, especially as the King of Cups, to be one to operate in compassion and to be loving, to be nurturing, caring, very careful with emotional essence and emotional intelligence in general, having certain access. This is like Scorpio energy, where Scorpio is extremely intuitive. They have access because of their own raw and unfiltered nature, particularly in the psyche. They somehow have access to others in that way too. It's because of their come from, that they know the depths of their own psyche, so they know how to tap into others, or at least relate or connect to others in deeper ways that sometimes like I said, the people themselves don't even realize they're being connected to. Like in a practical sense, a psycho, sometimes in the lower vibration, a Scorpio can read your energy, and it can almost feel like they're reading your mind, but they're really just reading your psychological signature, number one, because they have that access to explore the depths of that frequency themselves. And they can kind of like, not all Scorpios, not everyone has this signature. It depends on where it is in your chart, even as your sun sign. So please, no offense to my Scorpions, but if especially if you are a Scorpio, that you have a certain, innate. That's why I was saying like clairvoyance, maybe even what would it be, sentience? That's more smell, right? I think that's smell. Or is it sensation? I don't know. Now I'm getting kind of lost, but it's something. It's more than just the typical, oh, you look sad, or you look like you feel, you don't look yourself today, or you look a little tired. It's like a Scorpio could go deeper and know exactly why you're tired, to know, what that connection, what root connection that might be that you're tired, because you've been running yourself rampant trying to contend with this need for validation with how you're living your life now, and that stems back to when you were a child and you didn't get the validation that you needed as a kid, and you've been trying to make up for it ever since now. And in a higher vibration of Scorpio could help you navigate those waters and come to a pure understanding of your energy, and almost help pull you out of a space such as this, just by being honest and being that sounding board and that life force that is understanding enough that you could express your what it is of yourself that let alone what they didn't discovered of you just from proximity, right? But in a low vibration, that energy can be used against someone unsuspecting, where it can be a manipulative force used to more or less like monopolize your energy field, because they know what makes you tick. They know what you require. They know what you're missing. They know what you desire to have, or they know what your voids are, pretty much. And sometimes you don't even know what your voids are, but somehow they can sense it because they've discovered much of what their voids are, or have the propensity to recognize it on sight and on hand. And so, like I said, in the lower vibration, this is someone that could play off of that intel and use it against you, almost make you, manipulate you into doing things that you may or may not have even really wanted to do, but on account of kind of playing on that lower frequency, worst case scenario, actually tainting your psychic waters based on what they know of you to be true from what they've siphoned in some way, shape, or form, and then planting their own projections there to incite, almost like trigger you into certain psychological responses or reactions to gratify whatever it is their agenda may be. And in the lowest vibration, it just could be pure entertainment, or just the prowess of the power of it all to do it. In another vibration, it could be gratifying for whatever their cause might be, practically or emotionally, or however they want to engage you to align with their outcome. That's a mouthful, I know, but, and like I said, Scorpios, please do not look, my baby is a Scorpio. I have Jupiter in Scorpio. Please do not get offended, because I have an affinity for the energy. I know it very well, fortunately and unfortunately in some ways, but it's just, it is what it is. We all have a higher and a lower vibration to us all. So anyway, this is someone who, we'll see as more cards come out, but just off of that, Judgment, Sun card, this is the energy of someone whose manipulative schemes have probably been exposed. And he's in a sorrowful position for multiple reasons that I feel. Number one, because an energy such as this would never want to be exposed. Like, consider like narcissistic qualities or tendencies of an individual. That an individual may embody or just operate in. They don't want their tactics to be unveiled, number one, because then they can't use them anymore. And number two is because they operate, that's why this King of Cups is here, because it's the operation of a certain facade of compassion and emotional mastery and love and gentleness and kindness and a reserve emotionally that, especially with the Ace of Swords, it's like implying a certain control and like a conservatism of his own emotions. As we know with the King of Cups, they can feel a great deal deep down in the surface, and they may not ever express it, but that's all the facade. Deep down inside, in the lower vibration, of course, it could be a hot ass mess of anger and resentment and insecurity and all types of like gooky, muddy waters, that, and especially in the lower vibration, that usually is the incitement for the projection in a diabolical sense, because they're really just trying to filter that energy that has nowhere to go within themselves, outside of themselves in some way, like almost trying to, like, when a boat is going underwater, like trying to it's like it sprung a leak and you're trying to siphon the water out, like scoop the water out with a bucket as much as you can so that you don't go under. That's a lower vibrational essence of this energy that hasn't learned to account for, affirm, and appreciate his emotional depth. And that comes with a great charge of healing that everybody is just not willing to do, just plain and simple. They rather project that energy and impose those forces onto others who are unassuming, again, perhaps even for the leverage of power, also for the purpose of relief, but it's better out than in this regard. And it gets to be done, and unfortunately, in a very mysterious, especially we're talking about Scorpio energy, very mysterious and mystical way, that unless you have that come from, or you kind of hip to the game, alert, self-aware, especially within your own emotional vitality, you could be affected in ways that you just never even knew was possible. Like you wouldn't even be expecting for somebody, like this is somebody that can make certain verbal cues or inferences that don't even seem to have a direct impact in the moment, and then if later on you find yourself actively thinking about something that you weren't even going, like an insult in some regard, but like underhanded, to make it practical, right? Like a lowball type of underhanded insult that you didn't even really regard as such at first, and then later you think about it but you're not thinking about who it came from or what was said. It sends you into a spiral to really consider how that is true for you before you even consider the source. Like that's the type of tricky, it's like water, it can, how water is, it can nourish and it can do some damage, for real. It just depends on the source and the force of the power of it all, So this is the energy of someone that's being exposed, and they're sad about it. Well, they're not really sad about it. This is more so regret, I would say, than it actually is true remorse. Again, just for the point of being exposed in the first place, and losing some sense of power and what they have, assumed for themselves at this point, and now having to actually stand in the truth of who they truly are as the King of Cups and what that really means. Like what's really in those waters is what's being revealed, and this seems to be like the mirror image to me, which is why I said it's definitely for that Judgment card. It is that, and the thing is, the only reason why there could be such a so-called, especially with it being so heavily water-based, and I was saying it's something more supreme of a revelation or exposure here, that Judgment card implies that it's from a spiritual nature. So it may or may not even be like a public exposure or a physical, actual exposure, whereas other people are privy to the information or knowledge of what's going on, which I feel it is with the Ace of Swords, because that led the way. But spiritually, it's like even this person having to take a look at himself in the mirror, perhaps for the first time really and truly ever, by way of his failure, to keep up this facade at this point, is the thing that's causing the anguish and the depression and the sadness. But it's not, I don't get the sense that it's per se for the cups that have been spilled or those that have been impacted most. It's really just a matter of, damn, I can't do it no more, or damn, now the jig is up, or, damn, now people are looking at me. And that's the exchange also, I didn't say that, is that was being dished out and poured up for others is now being experienced. So if there's any, it's like that projection has been returned. So whereas he actually presented himself to be the King of Cups, he was actually quite stoic emotionally in a lot of ways. His depth of emotion was much darker than compassion and sympathy and empathy. It really wasn't that in terms of emotion. It was something more sinister. But now he's having to deal with the truth of that vibration of his own, but also now it's like spirit has opened him up to feel the true essence of what he was projecting out. You know, remember I said scooping that water out the boat so he didn't have to deal with it, putting it on other people. But now it's like that river is flowing. Look at this body of water flowing right under that bridge, right back to him. Everything that he sent to others to feel unsuspectingly is now, it's like where he was almost numb to emotion and to the feeling of certain intense vibrations. It's like spirit is open. That's like almost the karma. That is the judgment to open him up to feel every bit of it. And it can't go nowhere but with him at this point in time. You can't project it on anybody else. This is somebody that, you know, a misery loves company type of character, where just suck all the air out the room and make everybody feel uncomfortable, you know. But it's like perhaps even spaces and places aren't even embracing and receiving him in that regard, for him to have the precedence to do that. You know, that there's his ability to project in spirit and in truth, because remember, this is mysticism as well, has been revoked, repealed. It's not possible anymore. It's like all of that water, how it was just a little stream, now it's a whole ocean that he's surrounded in and surrounded by of his own vibration, you know, and also the collective tears, let me say, of those that have been victimized and perhaps didn't even know that they were, maybe perhaps did, but all of it, the exposure from the outside in and the inside out, is the judgment for this, what do we call him? Cruel king is what it is. That's the opposite of compassion, is cruel. Cruel. All right, let's see what else we got. And the cruelty was his pleasure. You know, that was his delight. You know, that's what got his jollies off, like imposing cruelty on others and sadness and insecurity and what else is that? Shame and guilt and again, all that he embodied in some regard, but put it off on other people. And this is the other thing when I'm talking about that undercurrent. This is someone that, as he is, exalts himself to be some established king of emotions, right? But to like being able to control the fluidity of his energetic force, and knowing that spirit is the origins of it all. So exalted is he by his own regard, right? And the way he maintains that exaltation is by projecting onto others their shame and guilt, like almost magnifying, maybe even intensifying, if not what do we call it? Like imposing altogether, like not imposing, but it really is a magnification of what already is lying in active within, or even sometimes dormant in the target. So someone that may have an addiction issue, or may have been abused and may have some sexual urges that they're not proud of, or and it may not even be right or wrong, you know what I mean? But just it's somebody like that knows how to zero directly in on what causes you the most guilt and shame, and magnify that area of your life and like almost inject it, you know, like almost GMO type of vibe, like injected to make it even bigger and more magnetized than it would have been on its own, if not calling it into perspective, and where it had gone unnoticed, where it was completely under the radar. You may have not even known you had that insecurity, or that shame, or that guilt, or you felt that way about yourself. But all of a sudden, like I said, like a comment could make you just completely rethink your whole life, But this is someone that had access to impose this type of vibration over and over again, or as many times as he could find the ability to do so. And I'm going out on a limb to say that it wasn't just about proximity. It didn't have to come from conversation. It could just come from a vibrational frequency, and certain establishments made, oh my God, that's my neighbor. Certain vibrations that were projected, or laying a certain foundation for a vibration, and that energy gets fed. Like, I can't even get into it because it's so dark and deep that that's a whole probably Sunday session on its own, man, like for real. But let's see. They know how to push those buttons. They know how to throw salt in the wounds that already exist. They know how to rip you a new one if you didn't know it was there, or it wasn't big enough for you to realize. It's like, yeah, tears. That's what that is. That's tears. Imbalance on account. It's like they'll poke at that energy within you to the point where you start to absorb it as a deficiency for yourself. And then what do? You create out of that deficiency, like guilt and shame. When you have that current running fluidly in your subconscious, everything you do is measured by that in some regard. It's a projection of that currency. It is your currency. It becomes your supreme wealth, your ceiling of value to some degree, because you only feel as worthy to receive as you feel righteous to be. You know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense. So if you got this current of shame and guilt running for things that may or may not even be your fault, may or may not even be relevant or valid, because remember, this is projection. Your sexual kinks may not be any abomination to the spirit whatsoever, but if you're being projected that it is, and that it's shameful, and you should feel low for your indulgences, then that's the current that you start to create from. Then you start to almost, more or less, with the human response, to operate more in that darkness and in that vitality. Literally darkness, because you want to keep it hidden, but it draws you in more to act out of it, or to punish yourself because you want to. It doesn't bring any healing. It just continues. It makes these like sores in your spirit. That's the best way I can describe it. And that's what this energy was doing, like making sores in people's spirits, gaping, oozing sores that they didn't really have the propensity to heal themselves of, unfortunately, because either the potential was already there for the dis-ease and the ailment, and it was just made worse, or it was like, damn, where'd this come from? Or they acted out of it and didn't even know that there was a source of the ailment. You know what I mean? Like, the action was kind of like, the activity or the creativity in one's life became the symptom, but there was no like source of the dis-ease, to even begin to cure. It's a real sick situation, overflow of tears and imbalance, because once you can get into a person's psyche and convince them that they are unworthy of anything supreme, especially of a spiritual nature, you can more or less manipulate them to do anything for or against themselves. More so for your, heartbreak. It becomes It becomes an agreement in the spirit that you make, like a contractual agreement that you make within yourself, that is completely like, it's just like a bad deal. You know what I mean? Look, High Priestess here. It's like a bad deal. You're going to get the short end of the stick every time. Like in everything that you try to commit yourself to, here is the essence of that agreement. Sorrow, pain. And that's why I'm reading this Ace of Cups in this way at this time. This isn't healing as it should be and could be. And this energy is blocking people from receiving healing, because it's like a metastasized cancer in your body. It's like you can't treat it fast enough, where you have one energy, it kind of almost, you have one what do we call it? Like one tumor, so to speak. And again, sorry for the triggering, but you have one tumor, so to speak, and it spreads to another node, and to this organ and that organ, and literally like the organs of the psyche, the components of the psyche. And we have many, it's like I said, deep, dark waters from our childhood and on up, from past lives and on up to now. You could never quite get to the depth of it all unless you're in a position such as this with the High Priestess, where you're almost devoted to a certain divine alignment that would help you navigate those waters. It's almost impossible to really get there 100% on your own, especially if you have energy such as this. And we all do, because society operates such as this. If you really think about it, society as we know it is set up to infect us with certain cancerous ideas of ourselves by way of projections of what we are, what we should be, what we ain't doing, what we need to be doing, what our surroundings are like circumstantially. So many things that we have to contend with that kind of leave us in this position as is, naturally, without any physical support or inducing of that experience, induction of that experience. And this is someone that was willing to be the induction, to induce that the material, the increase of that dis-ease, just for shits and giggles, first and foremost, but also for the gratification of feeling exalted in his own position. This is like someone who is hella religious and puts everybody else down and it may not even be like actively speaks to other people like, you do this, you do that, but he holds himself to a certain esteem as if, he's God Almighty himself to some degree, and projects the energy that if you don't get like me or you don't do like me, then you're less than, or, there's the projection piece there, right? But lo and behold, whether it be behind the scenes or just deep in his own energetic force, it's not the spirit of the spirit that's proclaimed. It's just like the talk and the walk, perhaps, of it all, but it's not really the spirit of supreme source, of force, of God. It's not the spirit of compassion and love and joy and peace and kindness and all of those good fruits of the spirit. It's none of that. It's the very opposite. Someone perhaps that even operates in the spirit of fear himself and never really quite reconciled with it. And that's, the main reason for the projection, almost as a protective force to some degree. Doesn't excuse it at all at this point, because we all have the responsibility to come to the agreement and alignment for our own healing, even if we can't absolutely cure ourselves by ourselves, which I don't think anybody truly can holistically. There's always some inspiration, some guidance, some salve to some degree that helps you along your way, but there's still the burden of intention and acceptance still has to be on self first and foremost. And so we're talking about the disparity between someone that is willing and devoted and committed to the intention of healing, and someone that is completely not only just rejective of healing and obstinate to it, maybe even despising of it, but is projective of his disorder and dis-ease onto others, like more intentional about causing others more harm that they may or may not ever heal from than the mere thought of potentially finding his own way to wholeness. It's like the most distorted energy ever, quite honestly. And it's sad. It's really, really sad. All right, let's see. Yeah, look at this. 7 of Swords. And look, the King of Swords. Let's see what this is about. Well, I'm telling you right now, I get it. Because it's like the dualities of these energies are coming up like this because these are the facades. Now, here is another expression. It could be the same man. It could be somebody different, of somebody that expresses. And this is all in the way of exposure, mind you, right? So this is what's coming to light, where people are not being able to even hide themselves from themselves anymore. They have to face the reality of who they are. Now, this is someone who claims to be honorable and integrity and truth, to be a reflection of the Ace of Swords. The embodiment of it to some degree is the expectation of the King of Swords, just as the expectation for the King of Cups would be one of healing and compassion and unconditional love. But see, the reflection here is the very opposite. These are actually tears, not healing waters. This is like acid. Damn. This is like acid water, not a life spring here. Damn, that's deep, Spirit. Jesus. The King of Swords, this is how he's projecting himself to be. This is who he really is. A trickster, a liar, a deceiver. One that will do anything to get over at all costs. It's his life's mission to get over on the system or whomever he targets as a mark. Is the energy of the 7 of Swords, the complete opposite of the King of Swords, who's also supposed to be a mastery of vision and truth and communication. Clearly, trustworthy, honorable, dignified. No, this is who he really is, the 7 of Swords. And this is the energy that he's been projecting out behind this mask. And it's like the difference is, it's the activity of this vibration. That's what this is reflecting to me. Like he's sitting here looking like, oh yeah, I'm a honorable judge. I do all things fair and good. I want everybody to. This is like, oh shit. I don't know why he's coming up again, but this is like the expression of. Well, really, this is the King of Cups because I think he actually is a Scorpio, but this is like Diddy who's now tagged himself Brother Love, right? Even named his child Love and all that, but we see what's happening with that exposure in real time. Not somebody loving at all, but actually leaving a trail of tears in his wake. Same energy here, but in a different way. This is like a psychological manipulation, somebody that uses words and emotionally it could be done too, because that's like the practicality of that current. But as I already said, with the King of Cups, it's something even more mystical than that I don't even have time to get into. Like just to throw it out there, like what's that called? Damn, what's the word called? For either one of these actually, but I've talked about it before, like say brainwashing. There's that, but that's not what I'm trying to get to. It's like damn, the term is really evading me right now. It can also be, it's primitive sounding. It's not primitive at all, but it sounds almost fantastical to say someone that knows how to hypnotize, like make certain psychological impressions or inferences, by way of the projections. And their methods vary, people that live in this type of energy. It could be through a myriad of ways. But it's something, it's so mystical, in fact, that it doesn't translate as practical at all. Like not at all. I can't say at all, but it doesn't translate as practical in a pronounced way. For me to even say somebody to hypnotize you, it's like, well, ain't nobody hypnotizing me. But it's done in different ways that you don't even know you're being hypnotized. Like kind of like how the lady in the sunken place was banging on the cup, like certain cues, I forget what you call them, but there's certain things that people have the ability to do, whether it be in practicum, learning how to impose this sort of energetic force, literally here with the King of Swords, knowing how to make certain inferences psychologically that turn into actions. Like I was saying before, almost like this is someone that can mobilize the masses against another individual right here, that can mobilize masses against an individual by inciting them with words, which ultimately in a practical sense would be lies, but it's deeper than lies, because it's not just somebody that just will tell a white lie or just spew out any old thing. It's somebody that lies with a very dark, diabolical intention and tactic, like knowing exactly how to craft the lie or the information so that it almost seems like the truth, like is acceptable enough that somebody would actually bite and receive it as truth, and then not only believe it as truth, but actually receive it as their own reality to some degree too. It gets messy, man. It gets messy out here in these psychopathic streets, that dark psyche, and the reason why it's coming up now. We came out of the waters, well, we're coming out, because we still kind of on the cusp. We're in Sagittarius season, but Sagittarius is going to get to the root. You're going to get to the meaning, the deeper meaning, the higher meaning. You're going to get to, it's the vision, the visual aspect, the I see of Sagittarius, that now we're coming into the illumination with that Sun card and the Judgment card of what's really been going on. It's like the surface was kind of bubbling up all through Scorpio season. It was coming up from the depths, and now it's like on the shore, like nobody can miss it now, unless of course you want to, but that's up to you. So let's see, let's 2 more, and I'm doing good time because my incense is still burning just fine. 2 more and we out of here. And I don't even know why. I had a feeling though, because especially, I don't know, for some reason when I was like Black Friday, I wonder what the message going to be today, but just the connotation of Black Friday, I just felt like something dark was going to be coming out. Maybe I incited it, I don't know, but that's definitely what I felt. So I'm really not that surprised that it's this nature of a message today. The darkness is being exposed, and it's giving everybody a fair, the clarity, the truth, the undeniable truth, so that you can more or less take your power back and reclaim your autonomy to make decisions for yourself where you didn't have all the information before. Yeah, this is that energy. And this is the striking, to put people in a position where they don't trust themselves and they almost become slaves to whatever these psychological inferences are. Like you don't even know why you either stuck or doing things that are just out of character or out of your intention. That's the energy here with the 2 of Swords. No matter how much you try to protect yourself practically, you wouldn't even see this energy coming. You wouldn't even know to look for it. You wouldn't know why. Look, High Priestess again, unless you are willing to be surrendered and submitted to that deep dive, willing to take a look at aspects of your life that on the surface look all peachy keen, but when you get in there, you get under there and you start to really think about your breath of life as it is till now and putting the puzzle pieces together and letting spirit, paint the picture for you, it's like things don't make sense the way that they've been making sense to you for all this time. The projection that has made sense doesn't add up. It don't match up. It don't. And that's what can put you in this position here, was like you almost feel like you feel mentally imbalanced. You feel mentally impaired in some regard, at least in the way of being able to trust yourself to discern truth from illusion for yourself, because everything that seems right is not, and everything that seems wrong, it's weird. It's a mind fuck is what it is. And that's the intention of characters such as this, to impose an energy upon you that would make you distrust your own vitality, your own mind, your own emotions, your own ability to act in wisdom and truth, your own ability to manifest, even, because let's not even talk about how there's no pentacles on this board, because that's the main energy that it truly affects. If you can affect somebody's energetic force by way of their spirit and their emotions, throw that off balance, that gives their thoughts a new vibration that's distorted, that becomes their truth, that feeds the current of their actions and what they do day to day, and the big moves that they make and the small ones they make, and the ones that they don't, the risks they don't take on account of how they feel about themselves. And then that puts you in a position of immobility with very little facility to materialize into a physical way by way of money and prosperity. That's why a poor spirit translates into a poor pocket. You know what I mean? Like poor in spirit, poor in mind is poverty in truth, because it all stems from that source. And that's the ultimate energy here, because then if you can manipulate someone's physical environment to the point where they can't support themselves, they can't secure a foundation of stability and vitality and feel accomplished in their own achievements and feel devoted and committed to the creations that they set out to bring into fruition, you can ultimately continue to double down on what was done at the root of it all. Because when you have a disruption in your physical environment, that's all the evidence you need to almost make the rest of it true. So for instance, someone that's not manifesting these big dreams and hopes that they have can start to feel like, well, maybe it's something wrong with me. And if you deep dive into that energy enough, you'll go into the ideas that were implanted in you in the first place, to think, well, maybe I'm doing this wrong, and maybe it's because I did this when I was a child, and maybe it's because of this that happened to me, and maybe that was my fault, and maybe I'm not worthy because I don't worship this way, or I'm not worthy because I don't act this way, or I do this thing, or I drink too much, or I smoke too much. Like you go into a whole death spiral trying to figure out, like, you think you're going into the spiral to fix yourself, to be deemed worthy for how you're falling short in your material life. But ultimately you're like plunging yourself down the toilet to feel even worse about who you are, and solidifying the reasons why you deserve even less, if that makes sense. And that is a shitty, literally, pun intended, place to be. And I'm telling you that there are energetic forces in physical bodies that have been committed to contributing, and not only just contributing, but creating that life force in people, unbeknownst to them, unsuspecting, and without, in some regards, without any support or point of protection for themselves. Hence what they were unsuspecting, so hence why there is no protection. And a lot of times, because of these facades, someone that's loving, someone that's honorable, it's from people that you thought you could trust, people that maybe even got close to you in certain ways to even really know the inner workings of you, or just presented themselves at a certain level of prestige and power that you just wouldn't even imagine that they would have the impulse or propensity or desire, sheerly even, to do such a thing. And here you were, a sitting duck the whole time. Now, yes, the things that we do that we find, the upside is that those energies that we connect with that incite those certain responses of shame and guilt and rejection of our own selves and remorse for our past actions and things of that sort, they are more or less signs and signals for you to then submit yourself to understanding of the why. That's the best route to take in terms of true healing and finding your wholeness. Like, okay, well, if I don't like this about myself, I don't like this action, I don't like this thought pattern, I don't like this cycle that I keep finding myself in, how can I change this for the better? And then starting to dive into perhaps the root of where that comes from in a healthy way, not a disgraceful way where you want to hide yourself more, but that's when you start to find that clear truth of who you really are and connect in sometimes painful ways, but definitely powerful ways, your creations to their origins, from this to the seed. Well, this is where it comes from. I felt insecure as a child because X, Y, and Z. I didn't feel valued. I didn't feel like my voice was heard. I didn't feel like what I had to say was appreciated. I felt like this person didn't protect me. I didn't feel protected when I was in the care of this person. Or I didn't feel, I felt disregarded in this relationship or whatever, like trace it back and you can see it, but it also doesn't get to come from a place of blame where you're saying, well, this person did that to me and that's why I'm like this. It's like, okay, you acknowledge the experience for what it truly was, just raw bones, facts, and figures. This was the experience, my truth. Now, how do I get to come to an understanding, if there is to be one, of the why? Because sometimes the why is the hardest thing to really come by, because people sometimes don't even know this person, they probably don't really to this day know why they truly operate the way that they do. So you may be expecting to get a reasonable answer from someone who you may identify as a so-called perpetrator or even, dare I say, predator in your life. I'll use that all loosely, that still doesn't have an answer themselves, So it's like you have to find the answer for how you get to be a catalyst for change on account of that experience. And that can only happen between you and spirit, you and your supreme self, you and source, because sometimes we're like the holding space for experiences that were not necessarily for the purposes of breaking us down as they were to build us up, to lead us to that point of understanding so that we could be the champions of change for others, to say, well, to be able to say, well, I can relate to that. I've had that experience before. This is how I found my way out. This is how I found acceptance. This is how I found forgiveness. This is how I turned my pain into passion, or I learned how to love myself and despite what I lacked. And, that's for those that choose to be a yes to that journey, that's the reward on the other end. I'm not saying it's an easy one, it's an easy charge or a challenge, but it's much more rewarding and life assuring to take that route than to beat yourself down about what you woulda, coulda, shoulda, and didn't and haven't done, and why that is and who did it to you. And, it's like it's a different why at play here. It's like the why me is on account of why not me. Like, how do I get to be the voice for the exaltation, the transcendence of this trauma and perhaps toxicity, this experience, before I become a victim of it? Or maybe perhaps even after, if you felt that way, you became a victim of it. Everyone's entitled to their own experience. I for sure am not belittling or demeaning anyone's perception of it, but one thing for sure, two things for certain, I can tell you how to transmute some pain. I can tell you how to transmute some pain. A lot of times is simply based on how you're perceiving it. World card, old cycles, releasing them and letting them be new beginnings. A lot of times we're sending ourselves back into traumatic cycles on account of being afraid that if we release ourselves from that pain or from the propensity to blame others or to be unforgiving, that somehow we're doing ourselves a disservice or an injustice, or that like we're almost depreciating our own experience. But it's not so. Like you become more, you appreciate the value of your life experience by allowing yourself to release some things that don't serve you in this present moment. It doesn't mean that you have to altogether forget about it, but there are ways that we hold on to pain and trauma and even truths that may be distorted in some regard on account of how we feel about them or how we've been projected we should feel about them, that don't allow us to move forward without carrying that baggage with us. So when I'm talking about transmuting pain, it's like it doesn't make it so that it didn't happen, but you find a different value for it. It's like, okay, I was abused by my father. How do I get to take that experience and allow it to make me stronger? Okay, well, first of all, the projections allowed me to see exactly where my points of like where my sore points were, so to speak, put it that way, like where my sore spots were psychologically. So it gave me at least a point of reference to see like, okay, well, if I do have a bit of guilt about indulging in this behavior, why is it that I do? Oh, it's because I was told that this is demonic. I was told that this is not the expression of someone that is loved by God, or that God that loves God, or that God loves. I was told that this would keep me out of the righteous rite of passage, that I have no access to God if I do these things, or if I did these things, or if I feel this way, or if I don't do these things. It's a whole list of things, and I'm speaking very generally right now, of course, but if I can trace it back and find my own truth about it, that maybe smoking weed doesn't necessarily say that I'm out of the kingdom of God. Maybe reading tarot perhaps doesn't say that God is displeased with me. Perhaps that's a projection from others' understanding of their religious ordinance and their doctrine. And I need to find my own peace with truth that makes sense to me. A lot of times, the things that we get to separate ourselves from are from sources that don't have a direct a jurisdiction over your righteousness in the first place, i.e., just like I said with society, projections all the time about what is right and what is wrong and what should be and shouldn't be. Now we have that we have that frequency, that meter within our own being to kind of feel it and know it. But what I'm saying is you have to really you have to make sure it's well functioning, because a lot of times it's very dysfunctional by way of how we read that meter, because it's steeped with the projections of our surroundings and from outside forces. When you get to, that distinct line of truth for you to come to the agreement that, smoking weed is not a crime or a sin against humanity or God, but is it for me? Is it something that's adding value to my life? Is it adding value to my health? Is it adding currency to my bank account? It's like coming to the practicality of what the truth is. And oftentimes that turns over the stone to let you know exactly what that current of guilt may be. It's not that God is displeased. It's that you are causing a displeasure and a disservice to yourself because you are averting your eyes from the truth of what that engagement really truly is contributing to in your life in real time. And if I can say, in the terms of the weed example, when you bear it down, it ain't God that, you know, wants to smite you. It's that you're taking away from your own your own pockets, spending money on a substance that may not be responsible to do so. You're taking away from your own energy and time and efforts to do something that would be holistically gratifying, like pursuing your visions and your dreams, or just doing regular as regular leisurely activities without being your mood being altered or feeling sluggish or whatever. You know, it's like real practical, the truth of it all. And it's not as fantastical as we allow it to be a lot of times, you know. But if you don't have the support to get to that, and you're not willing with that high priestess to take that truthful journey into self, more or less, and consort and consult only with Supreme Source, nothing else outside of you, then oftentimes you will have a distorted self-awareness. And that leaves you much more open to steeping more of this low vibrational energy on yourself, you know, sullying your own current of vitality, or being vulnerable to those that will willingly do it for you, just sheerly for entertainment purposes only, let alone for practical reward and return. Let's not even get on that. Some people actually have something to gain. Look at that. I ain't gonna take it, but yeah, entitlement to your energy and vitality. So to keep you separated from the truth of it all would be exactly the window they need to have all access to it, and make it do whatever they want it to do, or siphon it, Seven of Swords, as we saw, Seven of Swords, steal it for themselves, make you feel like it's worth nothing by way of projection, and soaking you in guilt and shame, making you feel less than. Meanwhile, they know exactly how vital your force is all the time, and they just consume it for themselves. And that's how they stay, stable in the things that they do, because they're consuming your force as a source of vitality while they're filtering off their dirty oil onto you. And you wondering why you can't make your dreams come true. Man, I'm telling you, I hope that I explained. I don't know if I did it justice, because I said I didn't want to go too long, and now my instance is gone and I don't want to go too long, but I hope you kind of understood what I was saying. Maybe I'll come back and really get into that energy that I was talking about in terms of, that tangent I just went off into. I can't even remember it now, so I know I'm not supposed to keep going. So I'm gonna just get one more card and we're gonna get up out of here. One more, Spirit, please. Let's just finish the reading. Thank you. Finesse. That's what the Knight of Cups is. To actually present themselves, to feel like they actually giving you something that's nourishing, almost looks like the Ace of Cups. Here, I got something for you. And here is the Wheel of Fortune. Star card, like I said, knowing your vitality all along, having something to gain from siphoning it for themselves. But it's karma here for all those that have been operating in that capacity. That's the real revelation here, is that everybody is getting just what they deserved, exactly what they put out. The revelation is coming so that at this point in time, you can't say you don't know anymore as to why you do what you do or why you've been doing what you're doing. It's like now everybody has the luxury of clarity, or will, maybe not holistically at this moment, but will have, and this is also Jupiter energy, Sagittarius season, having the luxury of clarity, and this being magnified at that. So it's like you couldn't miss it if you tried. And if you try, then that's just you wanting to remain in the ignorance, in the bliss of ignorance, as they say. Not wanting to face the reality of truth and wanting to, and everybody will have that choice as well. Some people, their eyes will be wide open, third eye, first eye, whatever you call it, and all, and they'll still choose to hold on to that illusion, that semblance of reality that just feels comfortable and safe and secure, and you don't want nothing different because this makes more sense, and the acceptance of anything unknown or newly known is just too much to bear. There are some people that will feel like that, that will much rather take the, what is it, the red pill? Is it the red pill or is it the blue pill? That's the one that just puts you right back to sleep. Whichever the one is, I can't remember. But there's going to be that option there. It's like you'll have no choice but to see exactly what you've been working with on an intimate scale, all the way up to a global and universal scale. All things will be made. I see is Sagittarius energy. Everyone will see what is the truth. And we talking about higher knowledge. It's a higher perspective. It's a bird's eye view, not just what's right in front of you. You'll be able to see the big picture of life as you've known it up until this time. And this will be the moment of decision, truly, in truth, as to which way you are going to carry on with that world card, your life experience. You can choose to have it the way that it's been, or you could choose to have it your way, really the way and truth in life that was destined for you to assume it as. And it's completely devoid in most regards of what you've known or been conditioned to consider to be reality at this point in time on many different levels. Maybe perhaps not intensely on all levels, but definitely at least a little bit of some exposure or revelation on all levels. Again, intimately, relationally, professionally, globally, nationally, universally. What you thought was God maybe perhaps all your life may be changing, or what you perceive to be the higher source and force of all, of power, from a reflective source, even from a reflective position, even unto you and you unto it, may be changing. And it doesn't mean it has to be good, bad, or indifferent, but there's certain intel that you're going to be privy to now or soon enough that you will have to take in account one way or another to make to make an informed decision on your next leg of this journey of life. What you do with that information will certainly be up to you, but it will be there. Yep, and there are energies just waiting. And you know what I feel? It's like there are energies waiting to be an obstruction to that revelation, but they can be no more of an obstruction than you are to yourself. Having been revealed what is necessary for you to know at whatever point you come into awareness of it, now you'll be the keeper of that truth. You're responsible for it. That's the whole premise of sovereignty in the spirit at this point. It's not about feeling completely detached from an external source or force, or supreme force or source, I should say. It's about being responsible for your own vitality in co-creation with that force and source, knowing that you've been given in spirit and in truth everything that you need or will be to make wise decisions for yourself, to move in a spirit of discernment that is protective and prosperous and properly passionate and powerful, all in its own, in human form, that spiritual experience. And yes, there are energies that may be positioned to still obstruct that evolution, but if you are a yes to the journey, yes, I will, even not knowing what it entails, or not necessarily knowing if you're equipped to make it or whatever, not having any with no inhibitions of what the experience gets to be, but just knowing that it's necessary for your life force to be sustained in this reality is all that's needed. You don't have to be super wise, super smart. You ain't got to have hella money in the bank. You don't have to have even You don't even have to have the best track record, the best reputation. All it really requires is that you be submissive to the process of healing, to the potential, dare I say, of healing, and then allow spirit to ultimately co-create with you in that regard. It's just you being a yes, you making a decision, a sound decision to walk in truth and honor and dignity and integrity at the very most, at the very least, I should even say. And it makes it very hard for energy such as this. That's the thing. It's like the lack of integrity, as I like to say, like righteousness is refuge. It's not religious. It's about being in integrity. When you're walking in upright intention to do what is best for you and not in any harm or detriment to anyone else. It makes it really hard for energies with this intention to cause a distraction or disturbance or disruption to really infiltrate your energetic field, definitely for them to attach to it. Even if they get close or even if they pierce it, it's hard for them to attach because you're vibrating on a certain frequency that they just can't really, it's like they can't really quite plug into. Someone that is released from spirits of shame and guilt, or at least keen to the vibration enough to be aware when it is pronounced and to confront it. I dare I say with curiosity, but with commitment to releasing it. Someone that's kind of on guard for their own vitality in that regard with the sword of truth. That's the energy here. That's the protective energy here, where you're on guard for anything that just looks unfamiliar or in some ways too familiar to which shouldn't take precedence in your vibration anymore. It's hard for someone on the outside to invoke anything otherwise and make inferences, whether they be seized or to inflate what's already there, because the work is already being done to kind of sift that gook out in the first place. So someone that might come along and try to make you feel guilty for doing X, Y, and Z, it may evoke a certain trigger, but then you'll simply release it because it's like, no, I've already confronted that truth. Somebody that might even try to come along and make you feel some way for what you used to do. You used to be a serious pothead. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I sure did. I sure was. You know what I mean? And guess what? I ain't got no issue with potheads or anybody that smokes weed now. Don't hold me to it because I might blaze up any day now, But the reality is that I have control of my vitality and my force, and I honor my vessel as a temple unto the supreme source and unto my supreme self. I am committed to my supreme self to know exactly what behaviors and what habits are working for me and what are working against me, and even the timing of which that's occurring, and the discernment to know when enough is truly enough. That's the self-control that I operate under, and that's just a small example, but I'm just saying, like, people will pop up and try to play you like that based on an energy that's not even really you in this present moment, but maybe just what they remember you to be. And that's how the inferences are made, or the projections are made. And then if you're in a vulnerable state, you might actually be thinking like, damn, yeah, I was a pothead, damn, and now I'm out here trying to inspire people on how to heal. Who am I to tell anybody what to do and how to see life? And all I did was smoke weed for 10 years, and that, like, you start going into that death spiral, talk yourself out of your own righteousness, and before you know it, you got a blunt and a beer in your hand. I don't even drink beer, mind you, but before you know it, you smoke it and drink it, and you don't even realize that one little small seed sent you into that tailspin. Guard your energy, people, because the finessers and the fools is out there lurking, seeking whom they can devour on account of the karma that they are incurring at this present moment. People are not happy about the lot that is being revealed to them by way of what they've harvested. Some people can take it with a grain of salt, humbly, and do the healing and work on themselves and pray for a better day. But some people undoubtedly are still almost an autopilot, trying to project that energy off of them, because not only is it intense to feel their own vitality in real form, but it's intense to feel what to now harvest those seeds that you've sown in other people's garden. It doesn't feel good. It feels awful. It feels like an attack. Certainly it does. And when you're not grounded spiritually to steady yourself and even protect yourself and psychologically and emotionally, because it's like you've been sifting off all of what would have been protective for you, when you could have been sifting through your waters as building your own moat, of your vitality. You were tainting other people's waters. So now you have no protection. Gates is just open for attack at this point in time. And a lot of people are feeling that. So no matter what they project themselves to do or be on account or aggression toward you, is really just a projection of what they're feeling inside. So just continue to protect your own self. Know that as long as you're walking in the way of your own integrity and truth, supreme truth above all, and being intentional about always cultivating that frequency, no weapon formed you shall prosper. It won't work, period. Everybody is getting what they have given. It is so, and so it is. So on the highest vibration, all that you need to be concerned about is living in the expectation of receiving the harvest of the good seeds that you have sown, considering that that's what you've been sowing out here, I hope. Not to say anybody's perfect, not to say I'm perfect, not to say that, life has not been a lesson, because it certainly has. But indeed, there's a great distinction and duality between divine and diabolical determinations out here. And it's very clear to see. You will know them by their fruits as to what people have invested in. And that's just how it goes. That's the universal order of this realm that we are in. So keep your projections and your expectations high, because you deserve every bit of what you're receiving and the fullness thereof it. Everybody, how about that? Across the board, you deserve what you're receiving, and it's just as much as there's no blame on anyone else from these more detrimental returns. It's no one else's fortune but your own as to the favor that's being received, because other people might try to project that if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't. And although some of these, like I said, in the lowest vibration, the people that thought they were doing the worst to you actually have helped you to your destiny more expediently, as a matter of fact, unbeknownst to them, lo and behold. But they still are, while you can give gratitude for the experience and what it has yielded, don't let anybody try to take precedence over your power by way of projecting that they had everything to do with it, because that is as a complete falsehood and illusion. If it was up to them, you would not be in a position. That wasn't the intention. That's just how the spirit shifted evil and made it for your good. Ultimately using what could have broken you to strengthen you. And we give all glory to the Most High, Supreme Source, and whatever you call it for that, in that regard. But definitely not deferred to any man for what was a diabolical intention in the first place. You rest assured, be proud, and feel honored that you had the will to, because that's all it came down to, is just sheer will, no matter what you decided upon. But you stood firm on the will to be as intentional about righteousness and integrity as you possibly could, even amidst all the impressions and projections to do otherwise. You kept your mind and your spirit focused on that prize of ultimate truth, and that is exactly what you shall yield. It is destined for you to receive it holistically so, and you should be just as proud and feel just as fortunate to be literally to feel like you hit the jackpot in spirit and in truth, because you have. And not everybody is going to be, just as everybody can't say they win in the lottery, everybody is not saying that they're yielding a prosperous and plentiful harvest at this moment, because everybody didn't sow for one, period. But you did, so congratulations and enjoy it. And until next time, I leave you with peace.